that I was telling you that my name is Dennis Okelo. I'm a teacher of history here in Taiwan. We are going to be co-teaching with one of my friends who is in another location at the moment. And in case you see the questions and you feel you can discuss any of the questions, you will let us know so that we give you an opportunity to discuss. Because by this time, senior sixes, we are sure you have finished you have finished your syllabus, and you have also done a lot of revision. So many of these questions we are going to discuss here, there is not much that we are going to introduce that is going to be new to you people. A lot of things that we are going to talk about, you have already covered them. So in case there is a question that you feel you can pick up and then you can discuss it, we shall be very welcome. So I'm going to share the questions in the chats, and then I'm also going to share the handout that we are going to use in the chat so that people can download and they can start to use it as we proceed with our discussions. I can see very many schools. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me now share the work that we are going to be using in the chat so that people can see. Let me attach. Where is my document? Very fast, it is coming. I'm going to share this work in the chat so that people can see what we are using. Holistic term 3. I think it is this one. No, it's this other one here. So the work we are using is already in there in the chat. I hope it's the one. In case you open and you find it's not the one, you let me know. So let me first open my document here and I share with you what I want to share with you. Just give me 1 minute. Okay. Where is my document? It's here. Yeah, I think we are good to go now. So like we always start, I am going to ask people in the chats, members, you are going to do for me one thing. You write for me what you expect from this session. So people should be sending me responses. What do you expect from this session? Remember, this is the only session. This is the last session we are having. So anything that you expect or any question that you feel you have, please feel free to ask so that we first deal with fast things, fast urgent things. So I always tell people that there are very many types of questions. In the last facilitation I talked about the different categories of questions. We talked about those direct questions. I'm just going to use these questions here to remind us a few things. Like if you look at number 1, it is a two-sided question. It is an argumentative question. It is a high order question. To what extent was the character of King Louis XVI responsible for the outbreak of the French Revolution? It is two-sided, it needs a standpoint, and it is a question that is very fertile, meaning that it has very many points. Then look at number 2. The downfall of Napoleon was inevitable. Yes, that is a simple one-sided question that does not require a standing point. So the requirements for this number 1 and number 2, they are different. If you analyze, you realize that number 2 is actually shorter. Number 2 is easier. Number 2 is actually much easier to do, unlike number 1. And now that's where the power of choice comes in. So when you meet the two questions, you should know which question should be done first. Like if I was the one sitting that exam, number 2 would be my number 1. You see? So choice is very, very important. Then if you look at number 3, assess the impacts of the Vienna settlement, it's like number 1. It is a high order question with very many demands. You realize that number 2 now requires you to give the introduction. Of course, you're going to give us your standpoint, and then you're going to give us one side of the question. They usually like calling it the stem. And then you change the argument and go the other side. So that is like number 1. High order argumentative question. The number 3 is like number 2. Account for the collapse of the Congress system by 1830, which has been a very, very simple question. Although this question sometimes, when it comes, people confuse it. When you ask people to account for the failure of the Congress system, they start answering the question and it gradually they digress into the failures of the Congress system. Or sometimes they actually end up writing and mixing the failures of the Congress system with the reasons why the Congress system actually collapsed. So teachers who are in this session, please guide students. Usually this question about the Congress system, it gives children headache. And students who are in this session, please make sure you polish your knowledge of the Congress system, because that question, as simple as it appears there, it is still hard for some people. So make sure when you're discussing, you differentiate the reasons for the collapse of the Congress system from the failures of the Congress system. It is easy, it is simple, but it is a black spot. The number 3 is like number, I think number 3 is like number 5 is like number 4. Yes, right. So I just wanted to begin from that point where we learn to know that there are different types of questions in an exam paper. So you're going to find those direct, simple questions that demand very little. In other words, you don't have to write too much, but you get the same marks. And maybe some people should be reminded every time that all questions carry equal marks. So there is no credit for doing a difficult question. That's why I tell people always start with the simplest question. And some general tips for students here, please make sure you plan your essay. Your essay starts with the planning. Start with the planning. The first page of the answer sheet is for your plan. How do you plan? Planning, of course, that is writing those bullet points. And after writing those bullet points, don't cross, leave it there. Just write the bullet points. Even when you have written your essay, please leave it there. That is the reason why you should leave it there without crossing it. And people should also know another general guide is that make sure every question starts on a fresh page. Yes, these papers that you're going to use, you have paid for it. So make sure every question starts on a fresh page. It helps you to remain organized. And remember to time yourself. Remember to be neat, write very, very neatly. And then as you do the writing of your exam, maybe another general guideline is that please know what we mark. There are a few things that we look out for in your essay. We look out for the introduction that is relevant. Relevant in a sense that it surely takes you to the question that you're going to answer. For example, if we ask you to account for the downfall of Napoleon, and we ask you to account for the rise of Napoleon, those are two different questions, and they cannot have the same introduction. So the rise of Napoleon, you cannot say is the same as the downfall of Napoleon by writing the same introduction. In other words, pick out what is important. For example, if we asked you, account for the downfall of Napoleon, please pick out those important things. Okay, you can tell us when he was born, the names of his father, those things. But since we are emphasizing his downfall, please trace for us, when did Napoleon's downfall actually become evident? For example, Napoleon's downfall begins to be evident around 1806, after he declared the continental system. So that should come out. Whereas if you're talking about his rise, you may not mention the continental system and other things. So make sure your introduction is very relevant, simple, clear, and gives you marks. Don't write a bulk introduction that does not add value to your essay. And then, of course, after the introduction, we always want to see your joinery statement. That point when you say the following factors led to maybe the rise of Napoleon. The following factors led to the downfall of Napoleon. That is the joinery statement. A simple sentence like that, please make sure it is there in your essay. Then after that, what we are going to look out for in your essay, we need to see how do you state your point. You should state your point in a clear, simple way. There are two ways of stating a point. You can state a point by starting with a point in this way. If you're talking about the downfall of Napoleon, for example, you can say the continental system led to the downfall of Napoleon, and you put a full stop. That is one way. The other way, you can say another factor that led to the downfall of Napoleon is the continental system. In the second way I am talking about, you have started with the joinery words and ended with the point. It is correct. And then in the other way, you start with the point and end with the joinery words, where you say the continental system led to the rise of Napoleon. Those are the two ways you should do, or you can state your point. And then you start to explain. Explaining here means showing how, illustrating the various ways you know how the continental system caused the downfall of Napoleon. So this is going to lead you to a series of sentences. You're going to say maybe the continental system was responsible for the Peninsular War because Portugal and Spain, they traded with who? They traded with Russia, and Napoleon declared war on them, and that was the Peninsular War. The continental system also led to the Moscow campaign. Why? Because Russia continued to trade with other countries. Russia continued to trade with Britain, and then Napoleon declared war on Russia. So you're going to show us the different ways, maybe in 3 or 4 lines or 3 or 4 sentences, depending on how much you want to write and how much you know. And then after that, we want to see the analysis. The analysis is the point when you connect the answer with the question. Many people like saying hence, therefore, thus. It is okay. That is correct. But make sure in every point, the point is identified clearly, the explanation is clear, and then the analysis comes out clear. In every point, that is what we look out for. So as you do your exam, please make sure you also know that is going to happen. And then please don't skip lines. Don't skip lines, because if you skip lines between one point to the other, whereas it looks attractive to you, it disconnects the essay. It is no longer an essay. So don't skip lines. And of course, number your work well. So the questions are here in case there is any question that you want to pick out and you want to discuss. Please feel free. I am aware there are many teachers in this session. Please feel free to share your input. I am very willing to give out numbers here in case there's a teacher who wants to help me do teaching. You are most welcome. If there is no one who is also able to join us, it is also fine. So let us go direct into the questions. Those are the questions I prepared. Right? The first number, you guys, do you want to project it? I think we can have it. Okay, so the first number is there. To what extent was the character of King Louis XVI responsible for the outbreak of the French Revolution? That is number one. Yes, I'm here with my students also. They are also attending the session. So in that case, the points that are expected, they are there. You are expected to give us a brief background of the French Revolution, and then you're also expected to clearly explain the role of the king in the outbreak of the French Revolution, analyze the role of other factors towards the outbreak of the French Revolution. A standpoint is required in this case. A standpoint is needed, so make sure you don't forget the standpoint. Yes. So when did King Louis XVI become king? He became king in 1774, and he succeeded his grandfather. He was a despot, just like his predecessor. Oh, I think you need to claim the board of this. Someone is coming. Okay. Right. So he became the king in 1774. He had a very weak personality. He had a very weak personality. He relied on weak advisors. The people who advised King Louis XVI were mainly the nobles and the clergy who were close to him. And obviously his what? His wife was also one of his advisors. So we are saying, because he had such poor advisors, they made him to make error. He made many errors. That's why the revolution eventually broke out. Perhaps that is how he ended up fighting, how he ended up going for the American War of what? Of independence. That was an error on his side. Perhaps because of that, that is why he was easy with the extravagance of Marie Antoinette and the extravagance at the court because of his weak personality. So by 1789, inevitably, the French Revolution had to break out. He called the Estates General Meeting without foreseeing the impacts of the meeting. It is true that King Louis started this revolution because when he called for the Estates General Meeting, he did not foresee that he was bringing the representatives of the three classes together and everything would backfire. I think we all remember the tennis court oath, how the revolutionaries refused to disperse until a constitution was drafted. So we are saying King Louis XVI indeed was responsible for the outbreak of the French what? The French Revolution. He called the Estates General Meeting that he had failed to control and therefore he started the revolution. Yeah, that is true, that King Louis was misled to call for the Estates General Meeting without foreseeing or studying how the impact of that would be. And that was actually the beginning of the revolution. Once the S.6 General Meeting was called, nothing could be reversed. And because of that, the revolution was unstoppable. So that was another error the king made. He failed to use the despotic powers he had to suppress the revolution. So the king had an opportunity to suppress this revolution in its initial stages. But because the king was not keen, he made so many mistakes. It is on record that 2 months after the revolution broke out, the king, while on a tour with one of his royal attendants, he saw a group of people making some noise, and the king asked, "What is happening? Is it a revolt?" And his royal attendant told him, "Your Majesty, it is a revolution." So even after the revolution broke out, the king was not aware. So the king was responsible for the outbreak of this revolution because of those issues. He dismissed the financial controllers. He dismissed Tagot Necker and Bishop Brienne. And each time he dismissed one of those three financial controllers, it caused more anger. So the king was responsible indeed for the outbreak of the French Revolution. He took France to the American War of Independence that was so costly for France. And by the time France came from the American War of Independence, France was not only having a reason to revolt, but France was more bankrupt. So his participation in the American War of Independence was like a double-sided sword. And when the people who went, or the troops who went to fight during the American War of Independence came back, it is on record that they became the leaders of the French Revolution. A good example is Marcus Lafayette. Then he signed the Cobden Treaty with England in 1786. And unfortunately, the impact of this treaty was negative, because then it meant that England would do trade with France on a free basis. And this means that France was at a loss. Why? Because the English good quality goods outcompeted they outcompeted the French poor quality goods. And over time, the merchants in France started making losses. I don't know how many of you live around here, but all of you should be familiar with Chinatown. When Chinatown, their first shop was brought here, the traders in Kampala, they striked. Why? Because the Chinese goods are not only cheap, but also some of them are very good quality. So now people are buying from Chinatown more than downtown. And that is worrying. If Chinatown puts up another shop for us here, all of us, we shall be going to Chinatown. So there is something to do with the free trade. So then King Louis the 16th passed the military law in 1781, and the law restricted portion in the army only to the nobles. Here it means that recruitment and all the privileges in the army was only restricted to the nobles. And that was a time bomb. When he mentioned that in 1781, the revolutionary mood started to grow. And therefore, by 1789, because of that law, the revolution broke out. So I'm aware there should be other ways the king was responsible for the outbreak of this revolution. But maybe just as a matter of guidance, it's very important for us as students to write a lot of points on the stem. Like in this case, that part that asks us to talk about the contribution of King Louis, because usually students like shortcuts. They will write for you the role of the king in about 2 or 3 paragraphs and run to other factors, the easy side. But in this case, the examiner is surely interested in knowing how much do you know about King Louis XVI in connection with the revolution before you go to the other side. And then before you go to the other side, you must write a transition statement. Write a transition statement and please re-emphasize your standpoint. Like in this case, I did not give you the standpoint, but the standpoint should be there. And make your standpoint clear. Use words like this: to a bigger extent, to a smaller extent, to a larger extent. That's the language you should be using. Don't say to a big extent. Big is vague. Small is vague. Make sure it is clear. So smaller extent, bigger extent, larger extent, like that. So if you're writing your standpoint, you should say, to a larger extent, King Louis was responsible for the outbreak of the French Revolution. Clear like that. We need to see your standpoint clear. If we don't see it, it means you are not aware that it is needed. And therefore, we are going to judge you basing on our knowledge that you are not aware. So then here, when you reach this point, you're going to now change the line of argument. So you write your transition statement and say, however, there were other factors that also led to the outbreak of the French Revolution, as explained below. Then you start explaining to us the effects of the American War of Independence and how it caused the French Revolution. It was not only costly on the part of France, but it was also a training ground for the troops that came back and led the revolution. So the American War of Independence, you explain how it caused the revolution in the various ways. The influence of the Queen, how he ill-advised the king, how he was arrogant, especially whenever he was approached by the people if they had problems, how many people actually did not, yes? How many people did not actually like the Queen because of her background? Yes, because of her background. Many people did not like the Queen for the mere fact that they knew she was from Austria. Yes, many people did not like that. They didn't like the fact that the Queen was coming from Austria. So many people did not like her background. But also many people did not like the Queen basing on the fact that many people did not like the Queen basing on the fact that she delayed to produce for the king hair. Yes, so many people did not like him because of that. And so the revolution broke out around how the people perceived the Queen of France and how she was extravagant. Although some people sometimes dispute this, that the Queen did not say that if you cannot afford bread, if you can't afford bread, you can't eat cakes. That is a subject to debate. But it is on record that the Queen was surely unsympathetic and also arrogant to the people of France. So the revolution broke out. The role of the philosophers, you explain how Voltaire, Rousseau, and Montesquieu caused the revolution. Maybe something for us to clear here is that when you say the role of the philosophers, please group all of them together, and then what they did becomes an example. Like in this case, the general role of the philosophers is that they awoke the people through their writings. The people woke up after reading their writings, yes. And then you tell us, for example, what did Voltaire write about that made the people of France wake up? What did Rousseau write that made maybe the people of France wake up. Why? Because when we are teaching, you realize that we teach Voltaire we bring out Voltaire as an independent point. It looks like an independent point. So there's almost a whole page about Voltaire, but that is not necessary in an exam environment. You're just supposed to bring out what did Voltaire do, what did Montesquieu do, what did all the other philosophers do, because you are writing one point and it is all about the philosophers. Then the nature of the ancient regime. In other words, it was not only despotic, it was also disorganized. So you bring out all those disorganizations that made the revolution break out, that rotate and revolve around the ancient what? The ancient regime. No clear law, no system of fair trial, very disorganized system, and yet it was despotic. So you bring that out and show how it caused the revolution. Then the effects of the social class division. We all know that France was divided into three social classes. We had the nobles with very many privileges. We had the clergy with very many privileges, and obviously the peasants who what we had the peasants who had only had grievances, overtaxed, they don't have any property, and yet they worked so hard. So the revolution broke out partly because of that. Yes. Then financial crisis. Who caused this financial crisis? It was the king, partially. It was also because of the system that was in place, partially. So by 1789, the revolution surely broke out. Then the calling of the S.6 general meeting. We talked about that in detail, but that doesn't stop us from talking about it here. Okay. Right. Then the influence of England, the influence of England. How did England cause this revolution? The good life of the people of England. The way the people who had been to England praised England, and the way the people of France admired to live like the people of England. It's like if you live close to a rich neighbor, time they do something, it annoys you. They are living their life, but it affects you because you don't like the fact that you cannot live like them. And therefore that can cause a fight sometimes. So that's what happened for the people of France. So after that, then you write your standpoint. You write your standpoint after that. Then let's see number 2. Number 2, the downfall of Napoleon Bonaparte in 1814 was inevitable. The downfall of Napoleon Bonaparte in 1814 was inevitable. As you can see, this question is one-sided. Although sometimes when discuss comes at the end of the question like that, some people automatically conclude that it should be two-sided, but in this case it is one-sided and there's nothing to write the other side. So this is what we want. A candidate is expected to give a brief background of Napoleon. Then after that, explain the factors for the downfall of Napoleon Bonaparte, and a standpoint is not required. Yes, a standpoint is not required. Right. So let us see here. Points to consider. You give us Napoleon's background. Let us start from Napoleon's background. You're going to tell us about 3 things, I think, here. We need to know when. Your introduction should bring out this question, answer these simple questions. When was Napoleon born? Where was Napoleon born? And who? Who here means that who was Napoleon's mother? Who was Napoleon's sister? Who was Napoleon's everything? So you bring out those answers, those 3 simple questions. By the time you finish answering those simple basic questions, you will have introduced Napoleon. All right. Then after that, you write your joinery statement where you're going to say Napoleon's rise was a result of the following factors. That is very important. Please don't forget to write. Don't forget to write a joinery statement. What are you joining? You're joining your introduction with the body of your essay. If it is not there, we are not going to look for you, but you shall say you are not aware that a joinery statement is required. So make sure you take note of these marking points because it's going to affect you if you do not put them in your paper. It should be very clear. So as you mark your essay, I want in your introduction should be very clear, very plain, very simple with the basic facts. Then after that, make sure your joinery statement comes at the end of your introduction. Like the last 2 lines, that is your joinery statement. And then after that, you start writing your paragraph by paragraph, identifying a point one by one, like I guided earlier. So, Napoleon's rise to power was as a result of many factors. You can see there, his ambition. Napoleon's rise was a result of his overwhelming ambition. His ambition to rise. By the age of 10, Napoleon was taken to the military school of Brienne. They took Napoleon to the military school of Brienne, and then 5 years later, they took him to the military school of Paris. There's another document I think I have here that I could share with the people. Just a minute, let me first get the other document. Just the other document that I had. Is it in downloads? Yeah.
Was in the discussion we had We put it that we're discussing. This way is the problem we're discussing.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Okay, let's proceed. The document I was looking for, I will share later. So here, factors that led to the downfall of Napoleon, as you see, his overwhelming ambition. I had earlier mentioned something that related to his rise, but here we are discussing his downfall. His overwhelming ambition, how did that lead to his downfall? I think the explanation we always give here is that it made Napoleon to bite more than he could swallow. It was because of that overwhelming ambition that's how Napoleon actually declared the continental system. That's how Napoleon went for the Moscow campaign. That's how Napoleon went for the Peninsular War. So overwhelming ambition drove Napoleon to make errors. And we all know the impacts of all these steps that Napoleon took. It was because of his overwhelming ambition. I'm here. Let me first see what is in the charts. I don't want people to, is it possible to find ways on how you can share this with us and we download? Yes, the document can be downloaded. Maybe there are people who did not see it earlier, but let me again share it so that people can download it. Maybe I'll share it in the WhatsApp groups in case you can't find it here, but the document has been reshared. So you can find it there. Right, so I was looking at the charts and I have responded. What is the continental system? The continental system, what was it? People, I am asking someone in the chats here, please explain the continental system. Write a short write-up about the continental system so that my friend can get what we are talking about. What is the continental system? Some people are not sure. But briefly, the continental system was a declaration Napoleon made when Napoleon failed to defeat Britain. So Napoleon came up with a plan that the only way to defeat Britain, or the only way to make Britain go on her knees, is to crush the British commercial empire. And he knew that Britain had a lot of market in France. So, as the emperor of France, Napoleon declared that he does not wish and he does not want anybody to trade with Britain. And indeed, Napoleon meant it. He first made one of the declarations in Milan and made another declaration in Berlin. It's like when Amin woke up one day and he dreamt that all the Indians must go. And he made that order. So Napoleon issued that executive order that nobody should trade with Britain. And because Britain was also aware that everybody in Europe will miss the British high quality goods, Britain responded by refusing to sell to anyone. And then it backfired on Napoleon. So, because of that, different countries, because they could not continue missing the British goods, they continued trading with Britain secretly. They continued trading with Britain as in secretly. So whenever Napoleon got to know that this, maybe this country is trading with Britain, Napoleon would go and attack. And each time Napoleon attacked, Napoleon was defeated. And that is how the continental system becomes the center of Napoleon's downfall. Because you can see the continental system caused for Napoleon, or it made Napoleon to go for the Peninsular War, where he lost, you see. And then Napoleon also went for the Moscow campaign because of the continental system. And you know the impacts of the Moscow campaign. Napoleon again was challenged. He went with over 600,000 troops, and then he came back with roughly 20,000 troops. The whole army was wiped out. So the continental system is very, very key in explaining how Napoleon was defeated. Yes, how Napoleon was defeated. So here, let us now go and concentrate on our things. Here, after the continental system, we have the Catholic Church. How did the Catholic Church? Yes, these ones, but I don't know who and who. I needed the list. Okay, the things are here, but I don't want someone to pick. When I think, why no? Okay, did you pay to me? I didn't pay to me. So yes. Okay, you go. All right. Napoleon antagonized the Catholic Church. How? By arresting the Pope. Why? Because the Pope also traded with the Britain. And the moment he did that, it caused him more trouble. It meant that all Catholics across the world were now attacked. So Napoleon's mistreatment of the Pope caused the French one. I mean, caused his downfall. Then we know the impact of the Moscow campaign. I've been trying to explain it a little bit, but apart from wiping out his entire army, it was also on record that when Napoleon came back from the Moscow campaign, Napoleon found a declaration of, he found a vote of no confidence passed against him. So many people lost trust in him. Many people lost confidence in him. And Napoleon tried to rebuild this army by recruiting children and trying to force people to join the army, but it did not work. Soon after that, we all know that Napoleon was again in danger, especially after Britain, Austria, and other countries started forming coalitions against him. And very soon Napoleon was defeated, and the Moscow campaign was the last major war that Napoleon surely fought outside France. Then the British naval supremacy was also responsible for the defeat of Napoleon. Britain was always referred as the shark of the sea. France was referred to as the lion on the land, because France had the finest army on land. Britain had the finest army on the sea. So we are saying that the British challenged Napoleon, and it was not towards Napoleon's defeat only. You remember how Napoleon was challenged by the British during the Egyptian campaign? Napoleon actually ran and left the war battleground. Why? Because he was defeated by the British. Napoleon lost the Egyptian campaign. So it did not end only during the Egyptian campaign. Napoleon was again defeated during the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805. Napoleon lost that war. But it was never publicized that Napoleon lost it. Now, that is the reason why Napoleon later came up with this plan of the continental system, because he had realized that he was not going to defeat Britain through physical confrontations. So Napoleon came up with this plan that, again, the British outsmarted him, because when he thought that by stopping people from buying from Britain, Britain would beg for peace. But the British instead said, we are not selling to anyone. So that they cause shortage, and then it backfires on Napoleon. Even Napoleon himself started smuggling British goods. He did not have boots for his troops. So Britain was at the center of Napoleon's downfall. One, because of her supremacy, because Britain joined and supported all the coalitions until Napoleon was defeated. Then in the growth of nationalism here, the growth of nationalism, we are saying all those conquered nationalities that Napoleon placed under France wanted their independence. And therefore they worked against Napoleon. The Italians all those ones who were conquered by Napoleon were all fighting for independence. Then the decline in domestic support was what caused the decline in domestic support? We all know that was caused because of his oppressive policies, but also because of his unpopular steps. For example, his stand on education, how he did not support education for the women, and how he became later a despot, started using the police and the army to, why? Because he was scared of opposition, all that. Then a depreciation of Napoleon's army. Napoleon's army was growing small and smaller, weak and weaker. Napoleon lost over 30 of his most trusted generals during the Peninsular War. Napoleon kept on losing more of his army. I think you know how he lost an entire army in the Moscow campaign. So Napoleon's army kept on becoming weak and smaller. Then Napoleon's physical exhaustion. By the time Napoleon was defeated, he was roughly around 45, but he was very old in the mind. We are saying he started making major mistakes. Napoleon, who was initially very, very accurate in his decisions, started making many errors. And perhaps that is because he overworked himself. So we are saying that Napoleon must have been exhausted, or he was tired, or he was old. That's why he was defeated. Recently, I saw when the president, I think when he was going to give his one of his addresses in Kololo, he attempted to run, but he ran for a short distance. I am saying leaders always want to show that they are still strong. They are still strong. During COVID, you saw how the president again made so many press-ups, and some opposition leaders challenged him that he should come out and he makes the press-ups when we are seeing. Why is he making it? And in State House. But the idea here is that Napoleon did not believe that he was now tired. So he was defeated because he was surely exhausted. And Napoleon kept on becoming more and more unpopular. And I think it is true that the more you stay in power, the more you become unpopular and irrelevant to the people. So this is a lesson to our future leaders. If you don't want to be defeated, please exit when people still like you. Then lastly, Napoleon's fighting techniques were emulated by his enemy. That when Napoleon was in Russia, one of his trusted generals went and leaked Napoleon's what? He went and leaked Napoleon's secret to the Tsar. And by the time Napoleon came back, many of his fighting tactics were already known. So by 1815, when Napoleon was defeated, they already knew how Napoleon would respond if he is attacked. So he was easily defeated because his tactics were already leaked. I have a court teacher here. I'm inviting him to come and say something. Right. So members, here with us, we have my co-tutor. You can't imagine, we are not in the same location, but we are going to teach together. Technology is amazing. We have teacher Daniel in the house. I think teacher Daniel could either be in Gulu or it could be somewhere very far from me, but we are not in the same location. But we agreed that teacher Daniel is also going to be dissecting some of these things with us. Teacher Daniel, we have been working together in many ways. But for today, we are going to be teaching together. So when teacher Daniel is ready, I am sure he's going to unmute himself and is going to say something. Maybe he's going to start with giving us some general guidelines also, or there is something else he's going to start with. So teacher Daniel, whenever you're ready, you're going to let me know so that we continue. Teacher Daniel, you let me know when you're ready in the chats, then we shall proceed. So question number 3, Teacher Daniel, you let me know in the chats or out here in my WhatsApp so that we proceed. Question number 3, assess the impacts of the Vienna Settlement of 1814 to 1815. Assess the impacts of the Vienna Settlement, 1814 to 1815. Okay. All right, Teacher Daniel. Let me first look for Teacher Daniel here. I want to make Teacher Daniel a co-host. Okay. Okay, Teacher Daniel, you are on. I think
Okay.
Teacher Daniel, good. Thank you. You're welcome, Teacher Daniel.
Thank you, Teacher Dennis.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, amazing students and colleagues in the house. I am Teacher Daniel Lubanga-Kene. I am teaching in Nebi district. That is where I work. My school is Urengi SS. Yeah, we have been working with the Dennis in many other places. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. I'm seeing very many people and a call over 130. I'm glad to share with you. Thank you. I think I will continue with the from where Chaden is ended. There is a lot of questions in the chat room. I don't know what time we shall get back to the questions raised by people, by the students, especially on your first, the first question on the presentation paper. There are students asking what is a standpoint? How can we write a good standpoint? There is also, is it okay to give a introduction on Napoleon? You talked of introduction on the French Revolution. Another one is asking for documents. If we are going to share, you will be notified if you will have these documents. And then some people are asking points that are appearing on the stem. Can they also appear in other factors? And another person is asking, is it okay to put a standpoint when you are concluding? I think that one we shall also respond to it. And then some people asking, there has been so much of monotonous in paper 3. Do we have a plan for other papers as well, paper 1, 2, and others? And then as a student asked the continental system, I think you responded to that. there's a repeated points on the number, a repeated request on the number of points, maximum number of points that is required to score a maximum mark. How many pages required in a standard essay? Somebody is asking possible UNEP questions because they want to pass. I don't think that is possible. Students should learn to prepare adequately. And then another person is asking if caught up by time, what do we do? Still write all the 25 points? And then how many well-explained points? Okay, so yeah, the questions are similar. I'm going to, Dennis, what do? We go back, we go to the questions, or we continue with the discussions? Or we continue with number 3? Dennis? Dennis? Are you there?
Teacher had stepped out a bit, but
Teacher
comes
stepped
back,
out.
I'll let him know.
Okay, let me first go to the questions. Then when he comes, we see where we can continue from.
Okay, sir.
There is a question. The first question was, what is a standpoint? A standpoint is your opinion of the question. Like in this first number that has been asked on the French Revolution. The first question is asking, that let me get to the question. And was the character of Louis the 16th responsible for the outbreak of the French Revolution, 1789? Now, it is your opinion to what degree you think this setter is right. Is it the king that was to a larger extent responsible for the outbreak of the French Revolution, or you think the king was responsible to a smaller extent? So a standpoint is your opinion on a double-sided question. You can decide to disagree with what the setter has come out with, or you agree with the setter by saying to a larger extent, to a bigger extent, the King Louis the 16th, or the character of King Louis the 16th, was responsible for the outbreak of the French Revolution. Or you can decide to disagree and say, to a lesser extent, the character of King Louis XVI was responsible for the outbreak of the French Revolution. You just need to defend your standpoint. So that is the first question that was asked by a student. Now, how can we write a good standpoint? I think that one I also tried to answer it, and also Teacher Dennis also answered when he was trying to explain the first number there. He said you have to be clear with your standpoint. To which extent? Because you cannot say to a big extent. It has to be clear how big was it, or to a larger extent. You don't say a large extent. You need to be clear to which extent, how large was it? Larger extent or smaller? So that is that makes a good standpoint. So here we are saying a good standpoint should have that ER at the end, bigger, larger. You understand that? So that one is a good standpoint. Avoid writing to some extent. We have students who write it to some extent. The character of King Louis XVI led to the outbreak of the French Revolution. That is wrong. That means you're not sure of what you are writing. If it is small, if it is to a small extent, let it be smaller extent. If it is to a big extent, let it be bigger extent. Don't we give a brief introduction about on that first question? That first question, the major issue there is the French Revolution. And that is why we are saying you introduce the French Revolution. That is the concept in that question. The character of King Louis XVI is not the main issue or the main concept in that one, in that question. The whole question is talking about the French Revolution. So you introduce the French Revolution. However, a student who wishes to bring a brief introduction of King Louis XVI, you will not be penalized for that. It will still be okay. So that is that. And then documents, the admins will see what to do with that. And then do you repeat the point from the same to however side? That question was also asked by another person that he saw American War of Independence appearing in the same. Does it also appear in other factors? Yes. American War of Independence, like this one, we are looking at the character of the King Louis XVI. You are using how the character of King Louis XVI took the French soldiers or the French army to participate in the American War of Independence in a situation which was worse than what was happening in France. So that was a weakness on his side. When the soldiers or the army went there, they learned a lot and realized that they need to come back and do something in France. So you're using the American War of Independence to explain the weakness in character of King Louis XVI. In the however side, you are going to bring the contribution of American War of Independence towards the outbreak of the French Revolution. So the answer is yes. It appears in both sides if the points are recognized. There is another person who asks that's about the standpoint appearing in the conclusion. Where the standpoint comes, the standpoint comes in three locations. The first one, the standpoint comes after you providing a background. For example, you have provided a background to the French Revolution. And then after you have provided a background to the French Revolution, you want to now provide that connecting sentence to start bringing your points. You can decide to bring a standpoint there. You can now say, to a larger extent, the character of King Louis XVI was responsible for the outbreak of the French Revolution in the following ways. Or you can use the other one that teacher Dennis said, that the following factors, the following were the what? the character of King Louis XVI that were responsible for the outbreak of the French Revolution. Then you start writing how King Louis XVI was responsible for the outbreak of the French Revolution. After you have concluded writing the contribution of King Louis XVI, you now want to transit to the however side. That is now where you bring, however, that is the second transitional paragraph. The second place where you need to affirm, make clear your standpoint. You understand? So, however, other factors were also responsible for the outbreak of the French Revolution to a lesser extent. Or you can say, however, to a lesser extent, other factors were also responsible for the outbreak of the French Revolution. So you start bringing other factors, the weakness of, Marie, the Queen Marie Antoinette there comes there. Then also the American War of Independence also comes, and all those other factors. Now, the third place where the standpoint also comes can also be in the conclusion. That is where you can reaffirm your standpoint in the conclusion. It works very perfectly. You can say in conclusion, the character of King Louis XVI were responsible for the outbreak of the French Revolution to a larger extent. However, other factors contributed to the outbreak of the French Revolution to a lesser extent, as discussed. Now, you've brought up the first one up, the middle one, which was in the transitional paragraph, and then you now crown it up in the conclusion. So your conclusion works that way. I think I'm clear there. And then there were questions on the alternative papers. Now, this one is administrative. Teacher, Mr. Stephen Kazibwe, you are around. You would maybe have time to go back to that. The students are asking that they have been learning history theory. Are there going to be provisions for other papers, like paper 1, paper 2, and others? How many points? Wow, this is a tough one because the way the marking is done, the marking is done in such a way that you find the guides that are prepared. We don't know the number of points that will appear in the guide, but and also another thing is that we don't count the number of points that you have written. That is to award for you, to give you an award of whether you score 25 or you score 20. The marking is normally done as a whole. We look at the introduction. Have you introduced well? We look at where there is where a standpoint was required. Did you put the standpoint, and was the standpoint valid? Mm. And also we look at how you presented your points. There is issues of point identification. Did you identify your point well? Teacher Dennis told you how to identify the points. You can start with the point, or you start with those joining statements. And then we also look at how the analysis of the point. He made it very clear that each point should be analyzed, where he said now you can use either hence or you can use what? Other terms. But all points has to be what? Needs to have the analysis. So for to score a good, we look at an essay in totality, not just the number of what? The number of points. But also another thing is the coverage, the points that you presented should at least be 2/3 of what is in the guide. That means if the marking guide is having 30 points, and 30 points, if a question is two-sided, 30 points can will include both on the stem and other factors. Those ones are combined. So there will be 30. So 2/3 of 30 points, how many are those? So you do the calculations from there, then you know the number of points you need to score highly. Considering that other presentations, introduction, presentation, and conclusions are all very well. So that is on the how many points required. How many pages required in standard essay? This one, the number of pages I cannot answer because we have different sizes of handwritings. Some people write small handwriting. They have small handwriting, and yet they write a lot of things. And those people can use only one paper, one answer booklet to what? To answer everything, and they score also highly. Another people writes very big, and this one, you find these learners, they will even answer, they will use three booklets to complete, or even some of them, each question, the person writes it in only one booklet. So that one, we cannot determine the number of pages you need to write. So that is basically the questions that that we had. We are going to continue with the number 3. We are going to continue with the number 3. I don't know whether Denise, I have a right to the content.
Thank you so let me reshare the work. Number 3. I stepped out a little. I had gone to.
Okay. Is it seen? Yeah, Dennis, is my screen seen? Okay. Okay, let us go to that number 3. Assess the impact of the Vienna settlement of 1814 to 1815. Now, what is a candidate is expected in this number? We are seeing that a candidate is expected to give a brief background or define the concept of Vienna settlement. And then after that, a background of the concept of Vienna settlement. A candidate is expected to analyze the positive and negative impacts of Vienna settlement. Dear candidates and the teachers in the online, you should note that any question with an impact, with the word impact, it shows that it has to be two-sided. you know that impact is either positive or negative. So a candidate is expected to write both positive and negative, and also take a standpoint. A question which requires impacts, effects, consequences, those are two-sided questions. That's why this one is saying a standpoint is required. Now, another issue is that this concept of Vienna settlement, it is different from the Vienna Congress. Many times the students confuse Vienna Congress to Vienna settlement, or Vienna settlement to Vienna Congress. Now, what is a Vienna settlement? A Vienna settlement is a list of resolutions that was agreed or that were discussed by the congressmen at during the Congress of what? Of Vienna. Now, what is the Congress system? The Congress system refers to a diplomatic meeting that was what? That was held in Vienna by the statesmen of Europe after the downfall of what? Of Napoleon Bonaparte. Now, Vienna settlement is a resolution. What was agreed during that Congress, that meeting, was what was compiled, was documented, and became as a settlement. So your definition should be very clear. When you have a contradicting definition, it shows that you lack knowledge of the concept of what you are being asked. So the examiner will judge you accordingly. Like in this one, if you give introduction of Vienna Congress, then we shall assume that you are not well aware of what you are writing. So that is that. Now, after you have given a background to the concept of Vienna settlement, you now need to take a standpoint, like I say, or you can, if you forget to put a standpoint here, you can go and put your standpoint at the concluding what part. It will still what? It will still work. Now, which one are you going to start with? Is it to a larger extent, the Vienna settlement impacted positively, or you're going to say to a lesser extent, the Vienna settlement impacted positively? It is prudent to begin from a positive point of view. Somebody is going to ask, is it okay if I start by writing negatives? Whereas you may not be penalized, but we feel you start from the what? From the positive, then you go to the negative. It does not matter whether you want to say positive was to a lesser or positive was to a greater. Because like I said, a standpoint is your own idea, which you are able to defend. If you're saying to a lesser extent, Vienna settlement impacted positively, then that means the number of points in the positive should be less than that in the what? In the negative, that will be to a larger extent. So that is my take on that. Your standpoint, you should be able to defend. Let us go to the points. Now, the first point on the positive, we see that the Vienna settlement led to the defeat of Napoleon. When did the defeat of Napoleon come? Who defeated Napoleon? Who constituted the coalition or the statesmen at Vienna that defeated Napoleon? That one you need to what? You need to know so that you provide a concrete explanation on that point. Before I continue, one thing that I forgot, when you introduce the concept of Vienna settlement, this is a Congress. It is important that you also write some aims and objectives. Why Vienna settlement, or why the Congress system, or why Vienna Congress was summoned. This one will help you in writing the positive and the negative impacts. So after the introduction of Vienna settlement, you also give some 2 or 3 aims and objectives of calling the Vienna Congress. Number 2 on the point is it reduced the spread of revolutions and revolutionary ideas. What did the settlement do to reduce the spread of revolutions and revolutionary ideas? You remember this one, some leaders were restored. And those leaders, when they were restored, they went back with the what? They went back with the what they were supposed to do, so that they are supported by the statesmen of Vienna. And also, the chairman of the Vienna Congress, that is Metternich, also was totally against revolutions. He went on to make sure that no such revolution or no person comes out what disorganize Europe like Napoleon had done. And also, Napoleon was also trying to spread the French revolutionary ideas of liberty, equality, and fraternity. You realize that these men at Vienna decided that there should be no such spread of revolutionary ideas. So that one, they worked on them. Now, the Vienna settlement created an atmosphere of a lasting peace in Europe. Now, this one, we recognize that when Napoleon was defeated in 1815, the Battle of Waterloo, we realize that Europe maintained a moderate state of peace for a very long period of time. We normally talk about it and for about 40 years. That was European powers did not fight among themselves. It was not until during the time of the Crimean War that Europe fought amongst themselves. And then also we say that the Vienna settlement restored legitimate rulers. Where were the legitimate rulers restored? The King Louis the 18th was restored in France. And then also we have Ferdinand the 7th was restored in Spain. Pope Pius was also restored in the Papal States, and also others. Now they felt that those rulers were thrown out of power unfairly by unfair revolutionaries. So those people, they did it wise to what? To restore those legitimate rulers. And then also we find that the Vienna Congress established a means of settling international disputes amicably. There were European countries that had conflicts amongst themselves, and the congressmen discussed how to what? How to handle those what? Disputes in their setting. And then also we are saying that the map of Europe was redrawn by reducing the size of France to that of 1790. Now, what was that here? 1790. When you look at the 1790, it was a period when now the French Revolution was now extending it to what? To its ideas to other European countries, and also engaged in a number of wars with other European what? Countries. And also they used Napoleon to fight some of those wars. After fighting wars, you find they would annex or add those territories to themselves. So those ones, the statesmen at Vienna decided that they draw the map at that time, significantly reducing the size of France. And then also, we see that determination of the continental system and establishment of free navigation on international waters. Jordan has already explained a lot about the continental system, which Napoleon had come out with it to suffocate the economy of Britain, which the statesmen of Vienna decided to terminate it. the continental system had affected Europe so much because you could not, countries that were under Napoleon could not transact freely with the Britain. And also, that one caused a lot of problem. People started smuggling and those things. So they decided to terminate it. I think which was a good thing, a positive thing that the statesmen at Vienna did. And also, we realized that the peacemakers at Vienna established of power on the European continent by peacefully sharing the disputed territories. These people distributed territories amongst themselves, the states, the German states, the Italian states, and all those other small states were distributed amongst the powers, the statesmen at Vienna, where we see that the German and the many German were put under Austria, um, under Austria, and Britain taking over overseas territories that we see that were others in the Middle East and others as far as South Africa, because Britain normally want areas of very high economic benefit. Now, we also see that Vienna Settlement also gave birth to the future international organizations like the League of Nations and the United Nations, because the League of Nations, the United Nations learned how to settle issues on a round table from Vienna Congress. So it was an example. They provided a good example to Europe, and they still continue to provide such good example up to now. French aggression was controlled, and later French military might was strongly challenged because we see that they controlled French aggression by putting buffer states around France, creating states that they believe that would be stronger, that cannot be defeated easily by France. Where that is when we saw the creation of the United Kingdom of the Netherlands, bringing the Netherlands and Belgium together, and other territories that were created. Then finally, on the positive, the neutrality of Switzerland was what? Was recognized. Now, excuse me, there is the however side. I said this is where you transit to the other part of the essay, where you say, however, to a lesser or to a larger extent, depending on what you first agreed on up there. The settlement registered the following negative impacts. Now, so this one here, we see that the first one, the Vienna settlement regarded the opinions and interests of small and weak nations of Europe that participated in the defeat of Napoleon I in the Battle of Nations. Countries that participated, they did not even get shares of the territories. Others were given out and combined against their wish. You remember Belgium being put under the leadership of Netherlands without the consent of Of Belgium, and yet there were two different countries totally economically. And then legitimacy was adopted by Vienna settlement. Vienna settlement did not create total peace in Europe, although there was major wars, because there were a lot of wars. You remember there were revolutions, 1830, 1848 revolutions. So there were no peace totally in Europe because of those wars. But then also we are saying that under the principle of checking further French aggression, the peacemakers combined, peacemakers at Vienna combined nations and others were placed under the big powers. For example, I have talked about putting Belgium together with the Netherlands. That did not go on well with Belgium, that they also fought in 1830 to be independent from the Dutch leadership. So it was unfair of the Congress men to put these powers together. And also the Italian states were put, those states were put under the administration of Austria, with all taxes being being collected and given to Austria, that saw the suffering of those people. There was no perfect balance of power created by the Vienna settlement. Other states, other people powers gained more territories, while others got very small, and others even came back without anything completely. There was no, the Vienna settlement had personalities who differed in ideology and violated one another in what? In authority. Much as they were together, there existed disagreements during congresses. Metternich also had his own ideology, that sometimes also the Prime Minister of Britain also disagreed. You find the Tsar of Russia will also have their own, they had their own interests that we said there, that showed really the weakness and the negative impact of Vienna settlement. Now, we are also saying that Vienna settlement gave birth to European Austrian dominance. Austria dominated Europe, that is right from 1814, 1815, up to 1848, when we saw the downfall of Prince Metternich, and also now the Austrian domination of what? Of Europe. And also in a way, they also continued dominating Europe. And we say that we attribute that to Vienna settlement. And then also Vienna settlement did not put in place a proper strategy and procedure for the maintenance of the alliance system of Europe. There was really no procedure of conducting meetings, and this one was also borrowed by other congresses that came afterwards. Other alliances also lacked a lot, which Vienna settlement was not able to put it straight. Vienna settlement delayed the unification of Italy and Germany. Why? Because very many German and Italian states were given out to other the powers of Vienna. That was very hard for them, and also they fought them not to what? To revolve in their system. Not until Vienna settlement, I mean the Congress system that Vienna settlement initiated collapsed, that is in 1830, then those people kept on trying. They kept on trying until we see that the signs of success started coming when the mastermind of Vienna settlement, that is Metternich, got off from 1850s. Vienna settlement failed to prevent Napoleon's relatives from taking over power in France, as it had been one of its major aims. One of its major aims was to prevent the rise of anybody from Napoleon's lineage. But we saw that in 1848, a person from Napoleon, Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, took over, that is in France. So we can say that Vienna settlement failed to what? To prevent Napoleon's relatives from coming. The Congress of Vienna failed to establish an international army to protect the gains of the settlement. That the people, they could not really suppress all the revolutions because they relied on the membership army, which became a very hard thing to deal with. So that is question number 3, which was on Vienna settlement. Then you can confirm your standpoint in the conclusion, and that makes it for number 3. Dennis, we have 5 minutes. Is there any communication?
Guys, we are sorry we haven't discussed all the questions. I am aware some of you are in boarding school, and I think it's almost supper time. They are going to sound the bell, and you're going to find the line is very long. But this document is ready. We are going to share it with you guys in the WhatsApp groups, and I think the discussions will continue. Maybe I just needed to respond to a few questions here. Somebody raised a question that, so how much should I surely write? How many pages should I write? How many points should I write? My friend, if you are going to write these things, make sure that you write as many as, where's your name? That's here. Write as many points as possible, because here we are looking at quality. That is very key. And then also quantity of the work that you write, that is very key. And I see sometimes teachers deliberately pushing their students to write big letters. I'm asking teachers, my fellow friends, please, even if you write small letters, we are going to read and we shall give you the marks. Don't push students to write big what? Big letters. It does not add any value to the essay. So make sure the students write the right thing. That's the most important thing. And with students, make sure you have finished. Finishing the exam is the first step to passing the exam, members. If you have not finished, it means that you are not very safe. Then someone is asking, where does the standpoint lie? The standpoint is written immediately after your introduction. It is connected to your introduction. Below the introduction, let me say. Yes. Then I see there is someone asking here, somebody from Kasana Secondary School. Please, you can speak. Let me unmute you from Kasana. If you have anything to say. Yes, please, from Kasana. Let me go here. We have only 3 minutes. Okay, someone from Kasana, please, you can talk. I've unmuted you. Any question? We have 3 minutes, 2 minutes now. Okay. If there is no other question, I would like Teacher Daniel to make his final remark. And then I also make my final remark. And then we hope you have gained something from this session. Yeah.
Okay.
Teacher Daniel, you can make your final remark.
Oh, yes. All right. Thank you so much, members and schools that participated in this call. We appreciate your presence. For the students, please let us prepare. Let us prepare. We are not going to have questions. We don't want to give you something that will not come. That is sporting. Sporting is very, very bad. And also those who are asking for the number of points, we are saying that you, Teacher Dennis has already said you answer as many points as possible. And you be very clear while distinguishing the types of question, two-sided question from single-sided questions. And then also it asks the admin to respond to those who are asking the alternative numbers that we have been presenting on paper 3. What about other papers? I think that one they will talk about it in their concluding remarks. And for sure, learners, let us identify, interpret the question, give a background, put your standpoint where necessary, identify your point clearly, explain your points, and also conclude each point you relate it to the what? To the question. That is what is called analysis. So we write that as many points as possible, and also don't make sure that you don't skip lines, because paragraphs, essays are written in what? In paragraph forms. So paragraph forms, you don't skip what? You don't skip lines. So that is what I can say. We shall keep the discussion. Dennis will leave a phone number that you can keep engaging with him, or you can also keep engaging with me. I'm going to type also my phone number in the comment section that you can use to ask any other question that we are not able to respond to during this chat. So Dennis, I think that is all I can say. Thank you so much. I wish you all well.
You can get the phones out. Okay, guys, thank you so much for attending or responding to this call once again. If it was not supper, we would have continued even in the night. But because people must go for supper, they must go for prep, surely we have to do what? We have to allow you go. Maybe, Daniel, these guys may need your number, because after here, people usually ask a lot of questions. They may want to engage you out of this discussion. So guys, you can take my number. If in case you need my number, it is 0772199377. So I'm going to add my number into this document, and then we shall share. So Teacher Daniel, maybe you could also share your number, or I will share your number. Also, you can tell them your number now. Then I'll also add your number on this document that we are going to share with other people.
Okay, sir. Okay, my number, a quick one, is 0779 20 21 19. That is 0779 20 21 19. Yes, that is my number. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for being part of this engagement. We are going to share this document with you in the WhatsApp groups. Thank you so much, Teacher Daniel. Let us set these people free. They go for supper.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.